new movie, or it's about to come out, called The Yes Men Are Revolting. They seem very polite. There are many yes men. The one who is here now, like I said, the sheer testicularity. I don't want to offend anyone, but what balls they must have! And I can say in all honesty and in literal truth, they have at least twice as much balls as me.
I'm sure they have twice as much balls as me.
Friends, hopefully he'll tell you about their upcoming projects. I have no idea really, but I'm very honored and astounded to present of the Yes Men, Mr. Andy Bichlbaum.
Wow, this is my costume. Nice. It's really funny. Usually I'm the comic relief. I speak at a lot of conferences that are kind of activisty and people are doing important things, and I come on and I'm kind of funny and, you know, show funny videos, and here it's clearly not my role. Thank you very much. That's a very nice stamp. Thank you. Great. Yes. That was a very nice welcome. I was asked to reflect on how the Cacophony Society influenced the Yes Men and then show you some stuff that we've done. There's a video coming. So I got really introspective, and this is what you get when you ask me to be introspective. I was thinking about, you know, the role of Cacophony in what we did, and when I was in high school, I was kind of predisposed to pulling pranks on people and telling lies just for fun and for some weird, deep psychic reason. And at one point, at the height of the Iran hostage era thing, I don't know, that dates me. There was this guy, Ayatollah Khomeini, who was basically the bin Laden of the time, and I told everybody I knew and a lot of people I didn't know that I was his grandson. I'm not totally sure why. I could read something into that, but it was a lot of fun and a lot of weird things happened to me as a result of that. But I was obviously predisposed to this, and when I got a bit older and I realized there were a lot of other people doing this kind of thing, it was kind of a comfort. And in fact, when I went to grad school, what's my signal for next slide? Next slide, please. I taught this book in freshman college. You know, and I think I thought somehow, knowing that there were a lot of people pulling pranks and doing funny things, I thought, wow, it even seems kind of rebellious. But then it was actually the next year. New slide. It was when I got to San Francisco, and I actually, like, right here in this theater and very close to here, I lived here for 12 years. And it was actually ACT UP that actually, to be introspective, was what, you know, informed the Yes Men and actually made us do what they do. And they were pretty weird. I mean, that's a hunky Jesus contest. Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Some other very strange thing. Next slide. Absolute masterpiece of weirdness. Jesse Helms was a really homophobic senator who was saying really mean things about gays and saying that they deserved AIDS. And ACT UP activists went to his house and covered it with a giant condom that said, "It's a condom to stop unsafe politics. Helms is deadlier than a virus." So that's actually where I learned that doing pranks and having fun, crazy, subversive fun could actually also have a purpose. And two slides, one more slide. Slide? How do I say this? Thank you. No, and one more after that. And I kind of wanted I wanted to have a purpose. And I had still this mischievous nature. I was still telling lies to everybody. I was dressing weird and doing all these things. But it was actually, but ACT UP was here and addressing an incredibly serious issue and doing it incredibly effectively. And they won. They forced the government to change its policies, and they did it in part through, lockdowns and going into the streets and stopping the stock exchange and so on and so forth, which they did really, really well, and in part also by going into pharmaceutical companies and basically forcing them to pay attention to them, but they also did it through some really strange actions. And I didn't know quite how to fit in, and I discovered by accident how to do activism and have strange subversive fun. I was a programmer on a video game in Walnut Creek. And I was actually one of the first 2 programmers on The Sims. And so I was in charge of these little people. I helped design them. And then I got transferred to this ridiculous game called Simcopter. And simultaneously, as I was transferred, my boyfriend at the time dumped me. And I was kind of depressed. Yes, it was very sad for me. But the company didn't really care, obviously, because it was a company. It was a fucking capitalist company. And they just wanted to get this game out the door. And there was no room for emotions. And I was kind of frustrated. So I decided to leave, but I didn't know quite how I would leave. I didn't want to just quit because it was an awesome job. Except for that. So, right before this game shipped to store shelves, I added a feature in which suddenly hundreds of boys would swarm the screen wearing only swim trunks and start kissing each other madly. And I didn't really know why I was doing it exactly. I had some kind of a purpose. I knew it meant something. But mainly it was subversive fun that would also get me fired. And next slide, please. It did. It did get me fired. I put this feature in just before like 80,000 copies were shipped to store shelves, and I told my boss or when my boss was playing the game the next morning with his 9-year-old daughter, the screen was covered with these kissing boys or gay studs, and that was that. The problem with this was that media interest isn't really very long-lived. So there was a lot of it. I told a reporter friend about it, and he wrote an article, and then the AP covered it, and it was all over TV, and I had to cast it as kind of a political thing. Which I guess it was somehow, but it wasn't really. But then, all this media attention, all this fun that people were having with this, I had to make it have a purpose, so it wasn't just having fun. And I told them, oh yeah, it's about gay content in video games, and there's too much machismo, kind of stupid issue, but when the media attention for that died down, I was both kind of disappointed, because I liked the media attention, and also I thought, well, but there was real power there. I did this stupid little thing in my job, got this massive media attention, and that's kind of what ACT UP did. But they did it, with a much clearer purpose, and maybe I could try to do this kind of thing with a purpose as well. So, next page, please. I told a reporter that there was this big conspiracy paying lots of money to corporate workers around the country to sabotage the products they were working on. And that really didn't, the reporter I told it to was the AP reporter, and she said, wow, that's an amazing story. And if it's true, wow, that's gonna be huge, and if it's false, I'm gonna lose my job. So I told her it was false, and she promised not to tell anybody. And later, though, it became a kind of, successful, weird public relations company for subversive, fun actions with a purpose. Here's just an interlude, a San Francisco interlude. Next slide, please. I don't know if, maybe one after that. After that, next one. No, not that one either. Next. Thank you. Okay, .coms. There was this period in the late 90s, kind of like now, when a lot of regular people were being priced out of San Francisco, and the .com people were coming in and making a shit ton of money, exploiting everybody, is just what happens, and evicting 90% of the nonprofits in the city at that time. From 1996 to 2000 or something, 90% of the nonprofits were evicted. And a lot of my friends, and I myself once, I finally decided to leave, but before that, I did this funny action with a friend. There was this one law that was, it had been passed in 1984, allowing artists to live in their workspaces. And when the .com people came here, they went, aha, if we are artists, we can live in commercially zoned neighborhoods and totally destroy them. So they built these, next slide please, all these, next, yeah, well, okay. There was a lot of, there was a lot of really creative protest against the phenomenon of this eviction, by the way. Next two slides. This is nice. Now turn to save. Next slide. You know, enjoy the mission. Really awesome subversive fun with a very clear purpose. Next. And these are the live-work lofts that the yuppies built. They built these using the 1984 law that allowed artists to live in their workspaces. So what we did, next slide, was, next. Oh yeah, this is the rule that was passed in, I guess, 1988. I was wrong. Next. We went around to all the live-work lofts, hundreds of them in the city, and just posted these official notices from the city saying that any live-work loft space was now going to be inspected for evidence of art production. Could include a kiln. Kiln is a fine evidence of that. And that was my first example. Next slide, please. That was my first example of my first personal experience with rabid, out of control corporate capitalism. Of course, there are much worse examples of it in the world, like in the Alberta tar sands here, which is out of control, hideous place. I've been there. I can tell you it's horrible, but you can also see pictures. There's a pipeline being built now, the Keystone XL pipeline. And yeah, but it's going through some very scenic territory. And if you want a nice trip to some scenic territory and to have some good subversive fun that actually does something, you might take a trip there and do something around the Keystone XL pipeline to shut the fucker down. The next slide, I got involved. The Yes Men actually came out of Artmark. In long story, but in short, I'd started making fake websites just kind of for the fun of it, and it just kind of happened. And next slide, a lot of people were protesting were headed to Seattle to protest the WTO in 1999. And they actually shut it down. They shut down the ministerial meeting of the WTO. Very famous Battle of Seattle movie, all that. And we just kind of, as I said, I was just trying to, next two or three slides maybe. Next. Yeah, that one. I just kind of started playing with making fake websites. Next. And when no, still next. And when the people headed to Seattle, when there were 30,000 people headed to Seattle, I couldn't go, but I just made this fake website for the WTO, telling its policies in much clearer, readable, and funny language than it tells them itself. And to our absolute shock, next slide, the WTO noticed, and they wrote a press release, and the Director General himself said he deplored the websites and that they undermined WTO transparency. We, of course, didn't know that they had written this press release, and no one else did either, so they wrote us an email. Their head of public relations wrote us an email and said, "You bastards, you made us do this. You made us write this press release. Don't you feel terrible?" So we blasted it out to our best friends, 10,000 of them, and they found it very funny. Next slide. For this reason. And next slide. And so it got press, and as a result of the press, search engines picked it up, our website. It never would have. It would have been this obscure little protest, weird satire website, but search engines picked it up. And next slide. We, well, that doesn't make any sense. Next slide. A little bit of data. That really doesn't either, but because search engines had picked it up, we started getting a lot of emails intended for the WTO, and actually got invited to some conferences accidentally, to which we went, and gave incredibly stupid, absurd lectures wearing ridiculous costumes to people. Like, this was at a textiles conference in Finland, where we were representatives of the WTO, and I was wearing this inflatable golden phallus that was supposed to control workers remotely in India. And it was designed to solve the problem of lack of leisure on the part of managers in the first world, which is true. I mean, leisure time has gone down. We've got like a third as much leisure as we did 30 years ago now, like in terms of vacation time. And that's terrible. So this is a hip-mounted device which allows you to walk around and control your workers in the third world while you're doing any other pleasant activity. And next slide. Oh, yeah. So we've done a lot of things over the years since then. We've not just gone to conferences and impersonated people, but tried to find other ways to have subversive fun with a purpose. Should make that a trademark slogan. And now we're in the process of working with other people quite a bit to help them do fun actions that actually make a difference, that actually target something that needs to change and make people more aware of that thing and maybe embarrass some evildoers. There are so many examples in history of people doing fun, crazy things that actually change shit a little bit, or at least raise the profile of it so that other people can change things, or at least amuse the people who are actually changing things. That now we're launching this thing. It's part of what we call the Yes Lab, and it's an action switchboard. And we basically help people develop their ideas and carry them out. It's not very hard to come up with fun ideas and subversive ones, and it's not very hard to make sure they make a difference, but people sometimes need a bit of hand-holding. Like, they need to be told they won't be arrested for going and infiltrating a conference, for example, or any number of other things. There's not much legal danger. Like, people have been very kindly called me testicular, I think, today at Big Falls, but it actually takes no courage whatsoever to do the kind of things we do. There's no risk. We're not going to get thrown in jail. The real risk, the real bravery is the people who actually put their lives on the line or their bodies on the line and lock themselves down, and that kind of direct action. All right, whatever. That sounds really good. Next slide, please. And one after that. Oh yes, thank you. Thanks. Our kicks. Thank you. Our Kickstarter is actually over, but it would be great if all of you would go and sign up there on our list, yeslab.org/join, or just send email to info@yeslab.org, and we'll put you on the list. And when we launch this platform, you'll be the first to know. And we'll, you know, if anybody has any ideas for cool things to do around issues that matter here, whatever it is, whether it's the new .com bullshit, I guess it's called social media stuff, great, or whatever, there's lots to do, so do it. Thanks.